going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the MPower Show. I'm Markeith Braden of Markeith Braden and Company.
And I'm Donzaleigh Powell with D-Connects LLC.
And today we are in a little different spot today. Yeah. We are at the Nashville State Community College studio where they do community broadcasting, and Donzaleigh has a connection here, and she thought it'd be a good idea for us to share this episode here at NECAT. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
I don't know, you do a couple of shows of your own here.
Yeah, I've done some recording here before, for sure.
Nice, nice. So how was your week?
Week's been good. Steady as far as work goes. Just kind of still been in planning mode, gearing up, wrapping up fourth quarter, getting ready.
Yeah, it's fourth quarter. Man, this year, 2022, has gone by extremely fast. I know I have been, the past couple of weeks, just been working on planning as well. I identified a brand new service to offer. Something I've been doing the past 2 years since the pandemic is doing virtual live stream production. Many people have gotten to know me from my own live streaming of my podcast and doing live streams. And organizations started to reach out to me to help them with their events because during the pandemic, everybody pretty much went virtual. And I've found that to be a very lucrative service to offer, not only for organizations, but even for other coaches who might be doing some type of event and they need some live streaming. And so it's a little bit different to be behind the scenes, but it's rewarding.
Right. Good. Yeah, I can definitely see how that could be. It's a mix because you're so used to being in front of the camera, but sometimes it's fun to just assist and help others.
Yeah, it's fun and profitable.
Right. Yeah, that's always good. That's always good.
So today's episode, we want to talk about what to do when being laid off, or how to leverage a job layoff. We both have experienced being laid off our jobs, and in this climate today, in this economy today, Facebook has done layoffs. I just learned Oracle was doing layoffs in the Nashville area already.
They just got here.
I know.
Wow.
Twitter, job layoffs. So in the tech industry, there are a lot of layoffs that are happening, but there's so much life after a job layoff. And Donzaleigh and I decided that we would take time out to share with you all some tips and some things that you can implement, things that you can do if layoff is possibly pending for you, or if you've already been laid off. Because it's a opportunity. One, I think sometimes that many of us see it as a negative thing.
Right.
But I believe it's an opportunity for many individuals to, stop and think about what they want to do next before they try to jump into another situation. And I know everybody's situation is different.
Right.
But I think that there's some things that we can share that we've learned along the way that can help people to survive a job layoff. So when you first experienced your job layoff, I remember you saying that you already kind of saw the writing on the wall, or people were aware that things were going on. Talk a little bit more about that experience.
Sure. So this was probably around 2012.
Okay.
And, working again, full-time job, one of those jobs that had me up from the very beginning, working all day, staying late, day after day after day, just kind of continuous. It was hard to even really take time off from there just because of the amount of work. It just wasn't enough people to be able to get it done. And during that time, I was at a supervisory level.
Okay.
So I had 2 teams that were under me. So I was, again, kind of juggling the workload and everything that kind of comes with that. And thankfully, my manager that was over me, she typically was not in the office. She worked at an offsite location. She ran multiple areas. And she came in one day and she was willing, she didn't tell me what was coming, but she made it clear enough that I could guess what was coming. And because she couldn't say it, but she made me aware. And in that moment, of course, it's like, okay, I still have all of my bills, still have, mortgage, all of those things that I think can make it very scary for people.
Right.
Because what are you going to do? Like, how quickly is this coming? And it was coming fairly quickly. Like, literally, I want to say the heads up was maybe a month, maybe about approximately a month in advance. And of course, I wasn't supposed to say anything to anybody else, so same thing. Like, she was letting me know, but I was, and me being me, same thing. I let them know without letting them know, just so that they could be prepared as well. But during that time, it was that, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But I think one of the things that you can, hopefully or at least one of the things that helped me was I had already had other things going on, and I just kind of pivoted to them.
Right.
So here I was having a full-time career. At that time, it was workforce development related, assisting people, like I said, kind of managing projects and things like that to happen. And I had always done photography on the side. So, and it just so happened that when the layoff happened, which was the end of that fiscal year, so the end of June, it was summertime. So everybody's out wanting to take pictures and things. So it was a busier time, thank goodness, versus it being a time where, everybody's kind of cuddled up in the house. And so it worked, just kind of pivoted and really tried to push that, that avenue. Now, thankfully, I was only laid off for 2 months, but I think that's one thing is if you can be able to utilize a skill that you already have. So that's one. Pivot if you need to, or make the shift or adjustment. The second thing for me, I think, was I was still determined to not just take any job.
Yeah.
I still, even in not knowing, okay, still got mortgage, I was determined I need the right job because I don't want to do a lot of moving around. You're getting older, you want to be steady, stable in positions and things like that if you're able to. And so I wasn't just going to take anything. I wasn't going to apply for just anything. And this position came 2 months later, where literally it was perfect. It was perfect for me because, again, I'm used to working multiple projects, special projects, things like that. And this so happened to have been where 2 people had left the organization through Metro government. And so they took both of those positions and merged them. So that let me have I'm not doing the same thing every day because that's what I like to do. And it was outward facing, out in the community, learning about different things. So it was perfect. So yes, applied for that and then ended up, getting a raise compared to what I was making. So it was a win for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Similar to you, for me, there had been some kind of conversation or some rumblings in the organization around job layoffs. And honestly, I thought that I was pretty secure in my position until kind of closer to the time that I got laid off. And as that time was moving forward, one of the things that I did prior to being laid off was I did do some introspective work around what I enjoyed doing. Not even knowing about the potential job layoff, but what was it that I really enjoyed doing or felt like I was called to do prior to being laid off. And at that time, it was the speaking and the coaching. And so I decided to invest in myself on that level. About a year before I got laid off, I decided to take some of that hard-earned money from my job and invest in myself and hired a coach. So I hired a coach to help me to build out my speaking and coaching business. And this was in 2013.
Okay.
I got laid off April the 4th of 2014. And one of the things that one of my friends kept sharing with me, because I was thinking about transitioning anyway, he said that, hey, you want to make sure that you at least have 90 days of income saved before you make the transition. Now, we had no idea about job layoffs or anything like that. And I thought that was a good advice, was that before a layoff or before transitioning from your job, you want to take a hard look at your finances. And you want to try your best to be as prepared as possible in order to take the blow of a job layoff, or in order to not necessarily take the blow, but if you decide to transition, that if things don't work out the way you want them to work out immediately, then you still have that cushion of income. And so I thought that was great advice. But the second thing was investing in myself. That I learned that really one of the greatest risks that we take in life is a 9 to 5. And here's why I say that. Because any given day, supervisor, boss, CEO, whomever, can walk in your office, walk in your cubicle, wherever it is that you work, and say, we're going to have to discontinue this position. And so I like what you said, that you should have something on the side that brings in additional income, and not just solely relying on the job. And when you think about doing your photography on the side, was it because it was just a passion, it was something you enjoyed doing, or were you thinking like, hey, another stream of income would be great?
Well, I've always been a hustler, so I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it how I can get it. Now I do enjoy photography and did back then, but even so, I also am a landlord, and I was back then as well. So I did have the photography that was rolling, but I continuously also had what they call mailbox money.
Good.
And to this day, I love the mailbox money because the mailbox money, I mean, it can help, and it helps to position you to where you don't feel as confined. Like, you still feel the pressure. That's not going to go away. Just the not knowing is always, but really everything, like you just said, really even the 9 to 5, you really don't know. So, I mean, it's not much different. It feels much different. But yeah, so making sure that was one of the things. Like, again, my parents were more traditional. And so I was always we just had a strong work ethic. So whether I wasn't the one to sit and watch TV all day, every day. No, what can I be doing in that time? What can I be, and so I've pretty much been like that. I can remember, like I said, being in the 3rd grade selling candy to the kids. Like, it's just things like that you, in retrospect, you're like, I was always that person, and not really realizing it until it comes and builds into a business or something like that. You're like, oh, okay, I got it.
So turning, what potentially is a hobby into opportunity to generate revenue. And so I think it would be good for us to, maybe go back and forth on maybe the top 5 to 7 tips on how to survive a job layoff. No, I don't want to say how to survive. Let's say how to thrive from a job layoff. And so tip number 1 for me is that you thrive from a job layoff by first taking time to understand yourself. Self-awareness, I think, is key. That the more self-aware you are, the better you are at making decisions when being impacted by a job layoff. That what is it that you like? What is it that you wanted to do with your life but you haven't taken steps toward? What from your former job, if you have been laid off, did you enjoy doing? What didn't you enjoy doing? Because when you're asking yourself those questions and being self-aware, then you don't make the same decisions that you made prior to the job that you got laid off for. Because here's what I've learned over the years is that, because I did it myself, that many of the jobs that I took had nothing to do with my natural ability, talent, or gift. It had more to do with how much they were going to pay me. And so self-awareness will keep you from just accepting a job just because of the pay. Self-awareness helps you to say, this is how much I want to get paid, but these are the types of work that I want to do for that level of pay. I always said that, we kind of get it wrong in our society because we teach students in college, or we teach children as well, that you identify your work first and then life second. Whereas I have learned, and I share with even clients of mine, what life do you want to live, and then what work will help support that life. So tip number one for me would be self-awareness.
And I agree, because, again, you remember I mentioned how hectic the work was. During that, it really wasn't a lot of reflecting going on, because you're just trying to maintain what you got on your plate. And I understand that. And sometimes it's hard for us to take that step back in enough time. And sometimes I've said it before, he'll sit you down. Like he makes you take that break or just have something either snatched out, or where you're just like, man, what do I do? What should I do? You're almost asking. It's not well, this is what I want to do. It's like you don't even know at this point. So when you don't know, really taking the time to try to listen, to try to, read, to try to learn what is it? What's the path that I should be on? So I definitely agree that can be helpful as far as eventually getting your trajectory going again.
That's good.
I would say one of the just, I guess, basic things is still, as far as finances, I would just say making sure that you're now budgeting, very aware. And I was just joking a little bit a while ago about, shopping and the thing, and it's not that I can't shop, but for certain goals that I want, if we're talking about retiring early, you have to be focused and diligent in, I say that's my goal. Am I just saying it? Or I always say this quote, what are you willing to lose in order to gain? So I love fashion and I love attire. I kind of have my style, and I like to showcase that sometimes. But at the same time, sometimes you have to reel it back in. It's like, okay, yes, I could, but not this time. Or I'll make sure that I only every now and then, or here's the amount that I'll allow myself periodically. Or, you have to think about it. So when you're talking about a layoff, or even a potential layoff or anything, or just preparing for who knows what happens. I think really paying attention to your finances, trying to be diligent about a budget, slowing things down, and really thinking about it through here versus just the impulse, the emotion. Oh, I want, because we're bombarded daily. So just to kind of help with that, I think it's important.
And I didn't do the best job myself when it came to the budget and finances. I was fortunate enough that when I got laid off in April, right before I got laid off, we had a very bad winter. And I came home one evening to the bottom floor of my townhome being completely flooded because one of the pipes burst. It had warmed up that day. Pipes had burst, and the entire bottom level of my townhome was flooded. And so I got an infusion of cash to fix my house. Right. And when I got laid off, there were some things I wanted to do to the house that I did not do, and save that money, that which tied me over. So understanding and knowing your financial situation, you got Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. You have all these people who teach on finances, but it's very key to not spend every dime you have, because you don't know what could potentially happen. And I'd just like to add a little caveat to yours is in saving or in paying attention to your income, not living to the extent that potentially your income can provide you, leaving below your means. My goodness.
I absolutely, that is a philosophy that I definitely have lived by. So for instance, I think on a previous episode, I had mentioned how, in one position, I literally had skipped. I went from like just a regular employee to the assistant to the supervisor within 6 months, like just kind of kept working my way up, right? And every time I kept living like what I consider poor. I did. I kept living pretty much the same way. Now I might give myself a little bit of extra, let me give myself a little extra 100 on this paycheck. But no, I was diverting. I was like, no, I'm gonna make extra payment on this mortgage. I'm like, no, I don't like stuff hanging over my head, and I just don't like it. I like the feeling of ownership, and I mean true ownership, not ownership, but you still owe that. Yes, owning, but you still owe. So at any given moment, you don't pay, they coming to get it. So I just never liked that, and so I think trying to really like live within your means, like and determining what those means are. Most people that I've seen, you get a big raise, you get a new job. What's first? Nice new car. No, I'm riding my cars till them wheels about to fall off. And then when they are, then I'll get me something, then I'll upgrade, get me something, hang on to that for a long time. So that's just kind of how I go about it.
And different people have different perspectives, but basically what we're saying is don't spend all the money you have. You never know what potentially could to happen. So we have, being self-aware, paying attention to your finances. The third thing I would share around pending layoff or whether or not you have already been laid off is that you want to identify, we already kind of share this, identify what additional opportunities exist outside of a job that can help generate income for you. What is it that you're good at? What is something that you love to do that you can get paid to do it, but you're not getting paid right now? You just treat it as a hobby, but it could potentially be a business for you, right? Do you want to start your own business? Is this a good moment for you to decide to jump into entrepreneurship if you have, the finances in order? You've done the self-awareness and the introspection. Is this a good time for you to consider, entrepreneurship? I think that is something that I encourage everybody to do, because I know one of the episodes that we had, I said I think that everybody can be an entrepreneur just by deciding to monetize from something that they do well, even if it's just for tax purposes.
Right.
Because that benefit in and of itself is enough of a benefit for you to start a little side hustle and invest in that side hustle so that you can leverage the tax opportunities for it. And so tip number 3 for me would be identifying something you could do as a potential business that could generate additional income in addition to a job if you decide not to pursue that full time.
Right. Now, so for instance, I've got a friend, we've been friends probably since the 3rd grade, right? And she has always off and on, she would, especially when we were younger, would help with if I needed my hair done, I could always go over there. She could do, different things, straighten it, back when I was getting relaxers, that type of stuff. But she could always wash hair. Like, she's the best. Let me just say that. Now, I've been to a lot of salons. I've been to a lot of people. Everybody don't know how to, because I have a lot of hair. So everybody doesn't know how to do that. And I know it sounds so simple, like wash hair, what? No. But she is working, regular full-time job, but getting tired, getting to that point, like, I'm here, I'm making decent money, but I just kind of struggling with that when you get to where you're just going day after day after day, and it's like, what's next?
Right.
And so she asked me one day, she was like, what do you think I could do? I said, you could have a business literally with people that specialize in taking down braids and washing hair. Because if you don't know, if you all aren't aware of African American women, we are serious about our hair, serious about the maintenance of it, and it can be a lot of work sometimes though, and we're so busy. Sometimes you just want to have that moment to not have to do everything yourself, and so I could see that completely thriving. I've seen lots of people on social media talk about it before. I just wish somebody could help me to, because it could be time consuming. And so that was one of the things I suggested. She was like, I forgot that I was good at that. I'm like, yeah. I mean, excellent. So yes, just looking at what you can do, what skills you might have, even if it starts off small, you just never know.
Yeah. Tip number 4, I'll leave for you.
Sure. I'm going to say, because I try to look at it from a holistic standpoint. So I think it's very important to see where you can get some grounding,
Hmm.
whether that's spiritually, who can you talk to throughout this? Because I can
Right.
remember during that 2 months, I was already going to, church and things like that, but I never mentioned it to them. I mean, my friends knew what we're going, well, a few, not everybody, but they knew what was going on. I'm trying to think, I don't even know if I told my parents or not, but I didn't mention it until after I had gotten something else. And then, and I think one of my church members ended up seeing it on social media or something, where I was like, got this new job, I've been laid off these past 2 months, because they didn't know. And but I think having a place to be able to express yourself, because sometimes you'll have your highs, your lows,
Right.
you're gonna go through those emotions. That's very natural, because again, it's almost like being completely unstable because you have no real control in that moment. So looking for those outlets for you to be able to, and even if it requires therapy. I mean, if it's to that level, for some people it is. Some people I can just talk to a girlfriend or whatever. Hey, yeah, it was rough today. I've been looking for these jobs. They're not, taking my application, whatever it is. Just really thinking about how can you relax, whether do you need to take hikes? Do you need to meditate sometimes? Whatever that looks like for someone.
Yeah. When I got laid off, it was so interesting. It wasn't the layoff, it was post, meaning when I got laid off, I was excited.
Okay.
I was excited because I was betwixt and between leaving,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And not really having, quote unquote, the courage or the faith just to leave. So the layoff for me
Push.
was like an answer or a push.
Yeah.
But it was the post of the layoff, because now that I'm in this space of pursuing my entrepreneurial goals, I was still going to like some of the network meetings and doing some of the things that I normally would do when I had a job, and it was not clear on how I would introduce myself.
Oh yeah.
And what that informed me of was that my job became me instead of me making the job. Because now I did not necessarily have a title when I would go to these events to share with people what it was that I did. And so that forced me to do even some personal work, because I didn't realize how much the job necessarily defined who I was when it came to the community. And so it was a big shift in my mind, because I struggled with the value that I provided to the community now that I didn't have no title.
I think that some people call that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But I can remember I was interviewed probably maybe about 9 months to a year ago at the most by someone, and they were asking me, so what would you say out of your businesses? What's next? What's the next big thing for Donzaleigh? And I was like, I wouldn't say it's a business. I would say it's Donzaleigh, because whatever is in me, like, that is what's gonna start to move, start to evolve, and then it'll trickle out. I am not the sum of my businesses, my jobs, or what I do. And I was explaining to her, because she was like, wow, what? And like, tell me more. And I was like, for instance, I've had my, health and weight loss journey, ups and downs and all of that stuff. And when I was really, really, really gung-ho, I was posting about it a lot, because it just helped me. It helped me to stay focused. It helped me to stay accountable. It's like, this is what I'm doing. But I had to scale back on that, because it was like that was all that people were starting to see. When they saw me, oh, you the workout girl. Well, I do 50 other, no, I'm not. I happen to work out. That happens to be something that I do. That is not me. That doesn't encompass me. And so because I didn't like that, I stopped posting as much. Does that mean I stopped working out? No. But, people's perceptions, sometimes they just can't, handle that. So I totally understand how do you introduce yourself? How that's so natural. Who are you and what do you do? Yeah. Those are the first two things. So having to answer that can be challenging.
And tip number 5, and we'll stop with 5 tips here. The 5th tip I would say is, don't be in fear. That this came for you and not happened to you.
I like it.
It came for you and not happened to you. And one of the ways that you can not be in fear is to be in gratitude. So during the month of November, I've been doing daily posts of gratitude posts, reels, every day. One, because I want to challenge myself during the month of November to do 30 reels in a month, just to get in the habit of doing it. But two, to shift focus. That it's so easy for us to get into that mindset or that energy of what's not right, what's not going right, what's not well, what I don't have. But when you get in that space of gratitude, you begin to realize how much you do have, how blessed you really are, right? And, from I have a home that I own, a roof over my head. I was able to drive myself here in a car that I was blessed with, that I have the finances to put gas in that car to get here, right? I don't have any problems eating. I can get any of the food that I want, or, I have clothes on my back, shoes on my feet, things that I think we take for granted.
Absolutely.
And so in experience a job layoff, what are you grateful for in the moment? What are you grateful for every single day until you get that next position, till you get that next opportunity?
Right.
Be in gratitude.
That's always good.
Be in gratitude. Well, we just really wanted to encourage those who may be experiencing a job layoff, who may be experiencing a pending job layoff. You don't know what your organization may be doing. But we always like to end every episode with a word of encouragement. And I think I'm going to let the last point that I made be my word of encouragement.
Oh, you see how he did me?
And we're going to leave it to Donzaleigh to close us out with her word of encouragement.
I'm just going to say, as we're getting towards the end of the year, stay motivated. Stay dedicated to whatever it is that your goals are. Don't let up on the gas. I know it gets cold, and sometimes like I said, you want to just cuddle up in the bed and do a little less, or work out a little less, eat a little more, all of those things. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but still try to be diligent as possible. You are basically, you're authoring your destiny, and if there's goals that you want out there, then you gotta stay at it. All right, so don't give up.
You gotta stay at it. Well, we want to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed. Click that like button also, and let us know in the comments what you thought about today's episode. Are you experiencing a job layoff? Do you know someone who's experiencing a job layoff? Share this episode with them, because we want to be encouragement to you as well. And also, hey, take advantage of any of the things that we've offered in this episode in our commercials that we're sharing with you, because we have businesses and we want to provide value to you as well. So thank you for joining us for this episode as we talked about how to thrive through a job layoff. And we look forward to sharing with you each and every week. But until then, just remember this: always shoot for the top, because it's the bottom that's overcrowded.